Let's bring in our panel, the 5 co-hosts, Jessica Tarlov, Byron York, Fox News contributor, and Annie Linsky, White House reporter for the Wall Street Journal. You know, digesting all of this reaction, Byron, has been quite something, and there is this effort to try to move forward, but it's also been painful for a day to digest all that happened.
Well, it's been enormously painful, but to move forward in understanding this, we're going to need to know what happened. And the one thing I would hope happens in this case is that when the authorities catch this guy, whether he's dead or alive, that they are transparent about what his motive was, what he said. If he was etching things on his rifle and his cartridges, he probably wrote a lot of things down as well. We need to understand what happened. You know, more than a year after the Trump assassination attempt in July of 2024 in Butler, Pennsylvania, the authorities did not really do very well in informing us. And as a matter of fact, I feel at times that I still don't understand exactly what happened there.
We still ask questions, Byron. Yep. I mean, about that shooter in Butler, we still do not have the answers that we've been seeking, either from Capitol Hill or from authorities. I asked the FBI director about it. And hopefully, to your point, this is not the case here. They obviously have a shooter at large. If you put it up, FBI asking for identity of this person. They put out the picture today, and there you see him. They say this is the guy that they're looking for. Kash Patel, the FBI director, Annie, has made his way, is making his way, or was, to Utah. There was supposed to be a news conference today. It was postponed, delayed. We heard from the president that there was big progress being made, but we don't have any details about the search for this shooter.
Yeah, that's right. And I think in these instances where there's breaking news, where there's a live manhunt going on, you can expect these kinds of zigs and zags in any investigation. So I don't think that's as surprising, but this is really a difficult day, just to your point, digesting what happened to Charlie Kirk, and also thinking about 9/11 and the pain that was caused there. You're sort of digesting what we had today or yesterday, which had all the hallmarks of a threat from within, and reminiscing also about what happened 24 years ago when we faced as a country a threat from beyond our borders. In both cases, the country really needs to come together, and they did 24 years ago, and let's hope we can tomorrow.
Yeah, which is what I was talking about with Common Ground, the congressman. Axios, Jessica, Charlie Kirk killing deepens America's violent spiral. Kirk, the singular leader of MAGA's Next Generation, who is survived by his wife and 2 young children, was a fierce champion of the right to free expression. His voice was silenced Wednesday by an assassin's bullet. The bottom line, America is in a violent spiral whipped up by partisan hatred and extremism. Agree with that?
Yeah, I think you'd be really hard-pressed to not agree with that. And Bernie Sanders summed it up really well about how effective and talented Charlie was, even though many people who vote like me really abhorred a lot of his political beliefs. But, you know, Ezra Klein, his column led with that Charlie Kirk was doing politics the right way. He always put himself out there to have a dialogue with anyone who was interested in having it. And it's been so jarring, especially for those of us who knew him, and I knew him so little compared to others, but used to debate him. I saw him just a month ago in the green room here at the New York headquarters, and always so nice and generous, telling me that I was doing a great job on the 5, even though he didn't agree with the things that I was saying. And I've been really disturbed to see some of the reactions to this. And I would encourage everyone to look at what the Utah governor, Spencer Cox, said in the immediate aftermath, where he made sure to point out that Melissa Hortman lost her life and that there was a planned attack on Josh Shapiro, what happened to Donald Trump, and the assassination of Charlie Kirk, to understand that this moment is sending a clear signal that America needs to change and that this is unacceptable.
And the question is, Byron, who's going to step into Charlie Kirk's shoes as you look live there at Turning Point USA headquarters in Phoenix? You know, one of the things he did was these prove me wrong moments. And just listen to this one where one student says that his company is fascist. Take a listen.
You create a company that's like like close to being a fascist, and then like.
Okay. How am I?
Sorry.
Let's go through this. How am I a fascist?
Dude, like you.
Can you name one thing I believe that's fascist?
You believe that like you on. But
I'm such a bad fascist. I let the people who disagree in open mic to talk to me for 2 hours uninterrupted.
Okay.
I'm an awful fascist.
There's nothing like it, Byron.
No, some people just have it, and he was that mix of a great communicator and a very skilled political operative.
All right, panel. Thanks so much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.